Those Were the Days is filmed before a live internet audience.
Hee-haw! Welcome back to Those Were the Days. We sure are glad you're here. This is a show where we look back at TV from yesterday, sometimes a lot of yesterdays, and come back to look at it through some modern type lenses. I'm your host this time around, Audie, but I can't do this show without the rest of the Those Were the Days gang. First, we got the best darn baker this side of the Mississippi, Amy.
Hi. Yeah, we're still deciding, but we are going to start with the cactus blossom. And if we could have some extra cinnamon butter with the rolls. Wait, this is not a Texas Roadhouse?
Next, we got the best darn mechanic in 3 counties, Steven.
Thank y'all for coming to the casting call for Hee Haw, a brand new variety show committed to pandering to the masses across rural America. What does rural America want? Corn. They want lots of corn references, corny jokes, and corn-fed cast members. They also want to feel like they're at an old country hoedown in Uncle Jed's barn or at the entrance to a log ride at your local amusement park. Women, make sure to wear your short skirts and short as shorts as possible, while men are going to be covered head to toe in overalls, sometimes backwards for no discernible reason.
And last but certainly not least, we got the best darn beard of any I've seen this month, Travis.
So last week we were in the 90s. This week we're at Hee Haw. What I noticed was there were 100% more tassels in this episode, the same amount of dance numbers, and 100% less weird cigarette magic.
On this episode, anyways.
So far.
So far. All right. I'm ditching the southern accent because I can't keep it up that long. I don't know how Larry the Cable Guy does it, but
He gets paid an awful lot of money.
yeah, pretty much. So again, we're back. We're talking about variety shows, and if it wasn't clear enough this week, we're talking about Hee Haw. Now, a little disclaimer, I chose Hee Haw because I actually have an interesting personal connection to it. One of the Hee Haw honeys on this episode, Diana Goodman, is a family member. She happens to be a cousin on my dad's side. So she's like, not so distant cousin, whatever. But she was on the show for several years. I definitely remember meeting her at family reunions and not knowing any different until watching this now. I was like, oh yeah, okay. So that's my connection to Hee Haw.
That's awesome.
So
That is pretty cool.
I am Southern as they get. Yes, because she was a part of Hee Haw. She was Miss Georgia, and also my dad's name is Robert Lee Norman.
Yeah, that'll do it.
So
Yeah.
a little bit
That
of
is, that is as Southern as a name gets right there.
I mean, Beauregard. You're not named Beauregard.
Right.
So that's as Southern as humanly possible.
Yeah. So that's my connection to Hee Haw. What's everybody else's history with this show? Let's start with Amy.
So I knew the name, but I had always sort of put it, I didn't know it was a variety show. I'd sort of always put it in the like Petticoat Junction, that kind of like, I always thought it was like in that category. I didn't know that it was a variety show. I knew Minnie Pearl though. A favorite of my dad's, I think. But otherwise, a little to no connection for me.
All right. How about you, Steven?
Shocking enough, as a Southern boy, born and bred and raised and all that, no, I never watched Hee Haw a day in my life. As a matter of fact, I thought Hee Haw was something that was on in the 50s alongside Howdy Doody. I had no idea that a show called Hee Haw could exist up into the early 90s. Shocked me completely. But yeah, this is my first experience of this manic, crazy, rural country show.
And how about you, Travis?
I do remember Hee Haw being on TV. I forgot that it ran until like 1997, which is just insane to me to think of. But I remember because I can remember the animated donkey at the beginning yelling Hee Haw, and just vaguely remember weird sketches and just like those non sequiturs. I loved how it would just be like it would cut to Roy Clark and he would be laughing at something off camera and then turn to be like, "Here's Willie Nelson."
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yep.
from the it's the Monty Python school of transitions. We're not going to
Yeah.
try and make a transition. We're just going to like slam through it. So
Yeah, it's like an
And
ADHD dream. Like you're just watching it, and just
oh,
stuff bounces from thing to thing. I was like, "Are we gonna slow? No, we're not slowing down. We're just gonna hammer it. Just get the
So,
mhm.
content in."
spoiler alert. I have picked for my show Laugh-In, and I am still trying to choose an episode. So I've been watching a lot of Laugh-In, and this felt like a Laugh-In that was recorded in a Texas Roadhouse. Like it's just it was exactly that. Like it's that same format of we're gonna get in, we're gonna get out, we're gonna tell 30 jokes per minute, and about 3 of them are gonna land, but that's fine because we're just
Mm-hmm.
rapid fire. It's good.
Yep. We'll get into that in a second and explain just why that is. So yeah, I remember watching Hee Haw with my dad a lot. Because being a very Southern gentleman, like I grew up with him listening to country music and anything country that was on TV, he was watching. So definitely remember watching Hee Haw. I don't remember anything specific about it, but I remember it in general. Like I remember them playing the banjo. I remember Shotgun Red and everything. So I remember Minnie Pearl showing up all the time, doing all kinds of stuff. Her and Grandpa. Good lord. So for those of you listening and watching, if you're unaware what Hee Haw is, it was an American variety show focusing on country music and humor in the fictional Cornfield County. Both of those spelled with a K, so I'm glad they stopped at just 2 words. Um, it was.
Close one.
could have got weird real quick.
Are you surprised?
No.
But it was first run on CBS from 1969 to 1971, and then canceled as a part of the rural purge of CBS shows, which we talked about before with Green Acres and stuff. As soon as that happened, it was still super popular, so the producers just moved the show to syndication, where it lived from 1971 to 1993.
Wow.
And its ratings began to decline in 1986. So
Okay.
this was a popular show all over the place. Towards the end, they tried to change the format a little, make it a little less country and a little modern, and it pretty much died after that. Um, after the syndication run ended, it basically showed up in reruns on every country network there was: TNN, CMT, RFD, which standed for
Oh
Rural
yeah.
Free Delivery.
I love RFD
And
TV. You can go to that channel and watch, like, on the one hand, you're watching somebody sell you a harvester, and on the other hand, you're watching how to castrate a calf. It's amazing.
there you go, perfect for he. And then it lives on TV, which is basically the Grand Ole Opry television network that they own and run. So, but yeah, it was popular all over the country. During its run, it was successful in every major network, like from New York, Boston, Chicago. So here's the funny thing about why it is so scattered. To minimize production costs, they taped all the recurring sketches in batches. So they do all the cornfield sketches in one day, all the fence sketches. They tape an entire season's worth of material, 2 separate week-long sessions, and they just put the show together in editing.
Dang.
That's crazy.
I mean, that's a good way to
Oh,
do it, though, right? I mean, you'd
mm-hmm.
save a lot of time and probably a decent amount of money.
I
Right.
like how
Yeah.
they built in like the flubs. That's fine. Just keep going. Just do it
Yeah.
again. That's fine. We'll just
Yeah.
keep doing it.
Yeah.
Don't even
I
worry
did.
about it.
I did like that quite a bit. Like, and it, at first I didn't catch it, and then there was the knock knock joke,
The knock
Yeah.
knock joke.
That
and
got me.
he just walked away from it, and he's like, "Am I supposed to come out on?" And then they just did it again, like 10 seconds later.
Yeah.
We're gonna get this, even if we have to get a replacement in.
Yeah.
That's great.
I mean, as soon as I saw that, I was like, okay, mad props, and this is endearing to me that you would say, screw it, let's leave the flub in and go with it.
I mean, let's
Musical
face
performance.
it. The flub was funny.
That's what worked. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
the charm of the show. It was the whole. It was in there. I loved it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Only the musical performances were taped with a live audience. Everything else was laugh tracked.
Wow. All right.
Yeah.
Well, that
Now,
explains a lot. You'd be exhausted if you had to laugh as much as people were laughing in that laugh track. Like by the end, you'd be like, I'm done. It's like the last 45 minutes of Airplane. You're like, this is still funny, but I'm tired.
Yeah. It was crazy. Now, we could get into the cast members. We could get into all the sketches. But you look at the Wikipedia page and you got to scroll like 5 times just to see all the recurring sketches. Like a lot of these were ones that are recurring sketches. We'll talk about some of them, but just about was hosted by Buck Owens and Roy Clark opening it, playing the guitar and banjo. Buck left I think around in 80 90. He left toward the end, and Roy just kind of a guest host helping him along, but he was there from beginning to end. um Now, any other cast members stand out to you with this
Gaylord
particular episode?
Sartain. Gaylord Sartain. I saw his name, which is a peculiar name to begin with, but I'm like, I know that guy from Ernest movies. He was in like
Yep.
most of them, except they swapped him out in Ernest Scared Stupid, which was a tragedy. But I just
Yeah.
think of
It was.
Exeronius every time I see him. Exeronius. Gaylord Sartain
And
is
he
a
w-
national treasure.
And he was a longtime regular on Hee Haw. Like, I had forgotten about that until watching it and looking at the sketches and stuff. I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah,
Anybody else?
I recognized him. Pearl, I'd seen, and then musical guest Willie Nelson,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish they'd had-
braids too.
Yeah,
Old
that
Willie
was
Nelson.
my big thing. I
Yeah.
was like, wait a
Yeah.
minute. Like they said it was Willie Nelson, but wait, let me squint. Yeah,
But
alright,
he's
I get it.
still like he's already in his 50s at this point.
Yeah.
So like he's already, towards the tail end of middle aged, and it's just he's still around. He's still
Yeah.
kicking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do wish though you have Willie Nelson there, and it's great to have his music, but I wish they'd had him in more sketches or like
Yeah.
comedy bits, because he's genuinely funny and he's got a great delivery. And they did with the one where he was popping up from the cornfield and doing the
Yeah.
little one-liners,
Well,
which was another flub I did like.
Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah.
That was the first time I didn't catch it. I thought the joke was he had no idea who she was talking about. And then they did it a second time. I'm like, oh, okay. So the first time was
Right.
they just messed up. That's cool.
Yeah, I think this particular episode, they didn't focus on Willie and the comedy sketches because they also had Jim Stafford, who was a big comedy music guy around the time. He was really big even before he did several appearances on Hee Haw. Before that, he was really big with the Struthers brothers. Did a lot of work with them and writing and stuff. And for those of you who didn't know who he was before this episode, because I didn't really know him. They make a lot of jokes at him about spiders and snakes.
Yeah.
Spiders and Snakes was Jim Stafford's biggest hit song. In
Okay.
1974, it went straight up to number 3 on the Billboard Top 100 in the US and went to number 1 in Canada. It spent 5.5 months on the US charts and sold over 1 million copies. It went
Wow.
gold for a song about spiders and snakes.
And snakes.
I mean,
So-
hey, find something that relates to people. I mean, we all have feelings about it.
Yep.
It's true. Most of mine are Burn It Down.
Yeah.
He had a lot of funny songs like that. He was connected to a song I sent you guys in the Discord about Scotsman and stuff. It's a little wiggly whether he's actually associated with that song or not. Like I saw several different people who have been named writers on that song.
Mm.
And then we also had Farron Young, who I had no idea who this guy was, but is really big in the older country music scene. Like he's been around since the 50s and was there through the 80s. And like was really big during Hank Williams era and
Okay.
from then on. So I think those who are really deep into country music appreciated him being on here. Me, I was just like, okay, cool. Old guy. All right. And that was our special guest. And the rest of the show, I mean, look, we could talk about everything, but it would take us an hour and a half to get through everything because
Yeah.
I counted. There were 18 individual comedy sketches, 4 musical numbers on top of the pickin' and a grinnin', where they tell jokes in between, and the "You Were Gone" little song they did. They had 2.
Oh, go ahead.
They had 2 hee haw salutes and then the 1 dance number, which they
Which was
really love
great.
cloggers on hee haw. Let me tell you.
I
Yeah.
loved that. I was like, let's go.
The
Like-
cloggers were great. There was one particular clogger guy that
Mhm.
caught my attention. The one blonde with the
Mhm.
glasses, who it was almost as though he wasn't part of the clogger troupe. He was like somebody's brother or cousin, and they were like, "Look, you're good enough. Come on, you can be on Hee Haw with us.
We need one
'Cause
more.
we need to fill like Jerry's sick.
Jimmy,
need you to
Jimmy
fill
broke
in.
his ankle.
Mhm.
You're coming up, kid. You're one of the majors.
And to his credit, that dude looked ecstatic to be
Oh
there.
yeah.
Oh yeah. Especially at
I
the
mean,
end when they're just
Yeah. Can't
breathing.
breathe. I just wonder, like, how do you get into a clogging troop? Like, what leads a person down a path to clogging on hee haw? What does that world
Well,
look like?
They were a hee haw clogging competition
Right.
winner.
Right.
Mhm.
So you go to the state fair with your troop that I assume is associated with like your 4-H or your church.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
I assume because that's kind of how the Irish step dancing goes,
Sure.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's your school
I
or
mean-
your church or whatever, and it's the same
You
idea.
need an extracurricular, so you just pick one, and clogging
Mhm.
was easy to get
Sure.
into.
Your father
Right.
Yeah.
clogged,
Yeah.
your mother
Mhm.
clogged, your
You come from a
grandmother
long line of
clogged.
cloggers.
You come from a long.
I
line
mean,
of
step
cloggers.
1 is growing up in South Carolina.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
That's like the
Yeah.
first step to it.
Yeah.
So,
All right, so then cloggers. Let me ask you this. What sketch did you enjoy the most?
Pick me.
Okay. Those just listening, Steven has his hand immediately raised with his other hand girding it to say, pick me, pick me, pick me. Steven, the floor is yours.
Okay, I want to preface this with my notes are covered in the phrase, "What are we even doing?" Just everywhere. Just littered with what am I watching? Where did this come from? It was so rapid fire. I was just lost most of the time. But the thing that had me the most lost, which may be my favorite skit, was the weird 80s dance bit where they did the like blonde jokes or something in the middle. I don't know what that was. But it was
Oh, what
stunning
was it? It
to
was
me.
like Get Fit.
Get fit, fiddling and fit or something like
fit
that.
as a
Fit
fiddle.
as a
Fit
fiddle.
as a
Fit as a
fiddle.
fiddle. Was
And I
a
just-
regular segment.
and it started off just like as a dance routine, and I'm watching this thinking, all right, so this is
Better.
the Hee Haw Honeys is the dance group that's like the swimsuit squad from Viva
Yeah,
Variety,
Sure,
just
yeah.
less
Mhm.
athletic and more guys leering at them in the
Right.
show. Like,
Which was
Yes.
that was very
That was the
accurate.
part-
I was like, this is every trip to the gym that I've ever been on. Like this
This
is
was
great.
the part that got me is it's like these women are dancing. There's this random guy with shorter shorts than they have in the back on a bike. His gooch is touching that bicycle seat. Like he's got no pants on, basically. And he's just staring
the
at these
reason
women.
they have the rule to wipe down the equipment
Yeah.
when you're done.
That is
They
what greasy
zoomed
bicycle
in
seat.
on him And I expected him to say something or have a joke, but no, he just leers at
He
him.
just stares. He just stares. He's there to make you go, audience, it's okay. You can look too, because this weirdo's looking. Like it
With the
just
stash.
I didn't even the jokes weren't even that good. I'm like, what are we doing? I was so
Mm-mm.
stunned.
No.
I
And
did
then
like the one about like my boyfriend's getting older. Oh, how old is he? Well, I'm afraid to put him on hold.
what does that even mean? I
I
just
didn't know, but it was good.
I was so stunned. I just couldn't. It wasn't even the jokes they were telling. It was just the whole environment I was staring at was just like I'm looking at an alien planet. Like I don't even know what this is. And I
Yep.
loved it.
I am glad you mentioned the guys wearing overalls and occasionally wearing them backwards for no reason and just not meant because I'm watching this and I was like, is he wearing are his overalls backwards or am I slipping? Like, is something wrong? What is happening right now?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really glad that it wasn't me. And that actually he was just wearing them backwards, which is great. I was surprised. I guess I shouldn't be, but I was surprised with just how thirsty this show was. Like
Right.
you've got Fit as a
Yep.
fiddle, and you got just the blonde women doing their synchronized aerobicizing as men leer at them. But all like half the songs, like the first song was just about going to Kansas City and picking up women.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was Roy Clark's song about basically just how great it is in his bedroom.
Yes.
Was pretty much
Yes.
that entire song. I'm listening to that and I'm like, what? Huh? So it caught me off guard. I wasn't prepared for that level of thirst and hee haw, but I guess I should have been because it
Mm-hmm.
kept going. Like the one they had the sketch where she's writing down whatever the joke was about getting caught with their bridges down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Funny
It's
joke, and then
funny,
immediately
hilarious.
that rolls into the woman coming in about the picnic, having the picnic for all the men,
Yeah.
and she's gonna be the only woman
Mhm.
there. I was just I wasn't prepared for that. Is
No.
all.
And Goober's
Mhm.
mechanic deal where he
Goober.
was trying to
Yeah.
talk like what are we it was amazing. And I
Mhm.
know I will never have the confidence level that Roy Clark has to just have his shirt as far open as it was because Roy Clark at that point I'm convinced he thinks he's a sex symbol on that show and I'm like dude you ain't that pretty. I don't know but maybe this show is to provide hope for all the other overall wearing redneck guys out there. Just
I mean, maybe Roy Clark was starting the dad bod craze way back
yeah,
then.
maybe so. Maybe so.
I
Listen,
did.
the dude can pick a banjo and you can play guitar, and that
Yeah.
goes a long way.
It
Mhm.
does. Hey, I can do both those things. I'm married. Calm down. Taken.
I did like the slight trying to put some feminism in there at the beginning when Miss Lulu was at court asking for women's equal rights.
At the
That's
Just
very
Us a
good.
piece.
Yep. And it's like, we'll treat you equal, all right. Sure. Okay.
For me it was Minnie Pearl and her some women have a trophy have a oh no,
Model.
I forgot a model.
A
Thank
model.
you. Some women have a model husband. Hubs, he needs a remodel. And I was like, very good.
Mhm.
Thank you. That's
That
very
one
good.
was good. I did like going to her birthday party.
Mm-hmm.
Well, could you just count the candles on the cake? I tried to, but every time I got close enough, the heat pushed me back. And then her response, you always had, at my age, you always invite 11 people, 10 friends, and one fireman.
That's amazing.
So good.
I did, in all fairness to the show, I did write down the skit where Gaylord Sartain had the cotton balls in his ears.
Oh, that one was
That was
good.
very
That was
funny.
so funny because he wanted to. She wanted him to read her the letter from her boyfriend or whatever, but didn't want him to know what was in it. So he had to
No.
cover his
Yeah,
ears
but
so he
then
wouldn't hear
they called him the idiot.
it. Yeah,
I'm like,
right.
well, hang on.
Mhm.
Like, no, like he's just trying to help.
So good. I love
Yeah.
that.
Or the one in the diner was pretty good too, just
Yeah.
because it was like it didn't really go anywhere, and it was like we don't know how to end this, so I'm just gonna chuck something at Gaylord Sartain, and you see the whole set moving behind him.
Yep.
Like I thought for a second that wall was coming down. I really
It,
did.
it might have him. They just edited that part out.
He yelled the word chefage, which
Yes.
made me
Yes.
really
Uh-huh.
happy.
And what was it? An affront to my chefage or an insult to
Uh-huh.
my
An
chefage?
insult to my chefage.
Yep.
That was great. It just moved so fast. It was funny
Mhm.
because just wasn't slowing down. Like it was exactly what you're talking about, Amy, where 3 jokes land and 30 don't. It didn't matter because we were just the pedals on the floor from the start. I wrote
Mhm.
down at the top of it, I was like, this is an intense show. Right out of the gate, I feel like I'm in for it. Like we're at a party and it's gonna
You're
go.
like, thank goodness when we get to Willie Nelson, because we can all just be like, okay,
Yeah.
all right,
Like,
Willie, just
Mhm.
yeah,
calm
they
it
did
down.
4 musical performances or 5 or 6, something like that.
One
and
of
it's
them
like
got very intimate. It was just
Oh,
like
yeah.
at the end, it was like he's like, "I love you, Willie Nelson."
Are you gonna
I was
kiss him?
just like, I
Yeah.
don't know how to. I know. I was like, "Are they gonna kiss?"
Yeah, this is
It's
really
very
Yeah.
romantic.
progressive.
I was wondering, Farron, you been touching the bottle a little bit before that performance?
They're just real
Yes.
close.
Just a little.
The answer
Very
is yes.
progressive.
Maybe
Or
Willie
did
gave him some
Willie
of
give
that
you a
good.
hit and you just
Yeah.
didn't know how to take it yet?
Yeah,
That was it.
Mm.
Was Willie on weed at the time? Probably.
Was he ever not?
I don't
I
know.
assume he was always
I'm
there.
pretty certain. The way that dude smokes now,
Yeah.
in his 50s,
Yeah.
you know he was blazing.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah. He was
you
putting on a
don't get
front,
to
though.
Willie Nelson level. I mean, yeah, but also it's Willie Nelson.
Yeah, no, you're
Mhm.
right.
The reason there's that song, "I'll Never Smoke Weed with Willie Again."
Right.
He's always smoked weed, is what Phil Rude says. So I'll take it.
Mhm.
He was playing the part. I mean, I could have taken him from a conservative cowboy who wasn't smoking weed. But
I did Google Willie Nelson weed just out of curiosity, and there's a People article from 2 days ago about Willie Nelson reminiscing on smoking, quote, a lot of marijuana with, quote, great friend Snoop Dogg.
that's great.
Very good.
Man,
Snoop
what a
Dogg's 2
crossover.
friends are Willie
Man.
Nelson and Martha Stewart.
Mhm.
Amazing.
That is the triple threat we didn't know we needed.
Yeah,
I didn't
But
know.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see
Yeah.
that heist movie.
Right.
Oh, that's amazing.
I did like the picking and a grinning like dad jokes,
Oh yeah.
which
Mhm.
half of these were like, but like, what happened to the library? They stole the book, the one book the
Mhm.
library had. You know what we call people around here who look good and are all sophisticated? Yeah, tourists.
That one was very
No.
good.
Got to pronounce it right. It's
Tourists.
tourists.
Yeah.
Tourists.
Oh,
That one
and
was
what was
very
it?
good.
I'll get to it in a second, but there was another one like that. But now that you got your new fire truck, what do you do with the old busted one? Oh, we use that for false alarms.
So good.
Roy Clark can deliver a dad joke.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
he can.
I will give him that, like, with gusto. He
So-
loves those dad jokes.
There is I want to say it's a TikTok account, but I just see it when it like eventually like makes its way over to like Facebook Reels or whatever. And it's just 2 guys sitting on a dock, like drinking their coffee mugs, and they just deadpan do these dad jokes back and forth. And it is the fun. And it's like, this is all I can think of watching like a lot of these variety shows. Is I'm like, this is where it came
Mhm.
from. Like, these people would
yeah.
still be doing this. They would
There-
just be.
There's several dad jokes or just try to get the other person to laugh jokes kind of groups. They're all over the place on YouTube and TikTok.
Oh, funny.
Oh, I love those, like, dad joke off.
Uh-huh.
They just say dad jokes to each other to see who breaks first.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
really good.
Um,
Mm.
you made me think of earlier in the show the corn radio skit.
Yes.
The one time when he's talking about the sobriety test that the police are now doing. Not the sobriety test, the sobriety test.
Uh-huh.
Variety.
Yeah. That's what
Yeah,
the
throw
South
those
does.
extra
You
couple
add syllables where there aren't any and you remove them where there
Mhm.
should be some. That's how it
Yep.
works.
I have a great joke. It was a friend of mine was visiting somebody in I want to say it was Kansas City, but he was somewhere and he was out to eat, and the waitress came up and asked yeah, are y'all good or do you want some mower? He's like,
Mower.
what? No, I took care of the yard. Oh, more.
I'm gonna go down to the store.
The store.
The store.
let tell you something. Going to college in Savannah, Georgia, and having a lot of friends who went to the other local college down there and were very local and had very deep accents. We had a lot of fun listening to people try to understand each other all the time.
What?
So good. My dad, for a long time, got hooked on homonyms, but they weren't homonyms. They were words that sounded the same to him. So one of the ones, this relates to the show, he threw out and he said, corn and corn. I said, what are you talking about? He said, corn like corn laundry and corn like corn on the cob. I said, yes. And what he was particularly proud of was farce. He said, farce and farce. Farce like trees and farce like not true.
Oh, that's perfect.
Oh, that is amazing.
hmm
He loved that.
That's real good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my
Oh.
gosh, Lord.
Oh, amazing.
Phil
All
says
right, any
Steven's
other-
dad is a hee-haw character.
It's true.
True.
Based
Oh,
on
yeah.
everything we've been told while making this show, he is
Yeah.
absolutely a hee-haw character.
Yeah.
I expect
Mhm.
him to pop up from the cornfield behind Amy at any point and just
Yeah.
deliver a one-liner and disappear.
Possibly twice
While
if he
wearing-
screws it up the first time.
Right.
Backwards.
He'll flub the first one
Mhm.
with his backwards overalls. Which look, what happens if you have like a bathroom emergency and you got your overalls on backwards? You are hooped, okay?
Yeah, it's
Because
not
like
gonna
it's
be
already
easy.
hard enough to get out of them things quick, and now the hooks are behind you. You're done.
Well,
Oh,
You're
yeah.
just you're buying new overalls. It's over.
that's if you've got both of them hooked, which half the
Yeah.
time
Fair
is
enough.
not happening.
That is a fair point.
Do the old cross the chest version of it.
Yeah.
One goes over here,
Mhm.
Tarzan mode.
Yep. There you go. All right. Any other particular sketches that we need to discuss? Any that you did not like?
Oh man.
I mean the corn radio was good. It just went too long.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It could have been you could have cut about 30-40% out of that and I'd have been fine. Like which really for me that was my if I had a complaint about the show is that I think an hour long is a little long for
Yeah.
this format because there's so much and you just like Steven said earlier, you just get worn out at some point. You're like, okay, I'm tapping out. I can't take anymore. Half an
Really,
hour is a
we need
good
break.
yeah, half an hour like and that was the thing with Viva Variety last week that I liked was it was a half an hour. So they got in, they made some stupid jokes, they got out. And I think you got 4 musical numbers plus the joke songs that they did
Yeah.
and all the sketches. I think you could just trim that down and do a half an hour and it probably would have I think you would have had more jokes per minute that landed
Yeah.
Sure.
at that point.
The
But
dueling
I mean-
banjos was amazing.
that was really
Oh
cool.
yeah,
It
with
was
the
so
synth
good.
guitar.
Yes.
Yes. And you could tell, I don't know if Roy Clark had ever seen a guitar like that before or messed around with one, but you could tell how cool he thought that was
Yeah.
by the
Mhm.
end of it. Just how cool of an idea.
Good.
Because I mean, if you know who Roy Clark is, you know how good of a guitar player
Yeah.
and banjo player that guy is. So to imagine that instrument in his hands, it's kind of
Mhm.
frightening.
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah, I did get a little winded by the musical. I loved music. I love seeing the music in the show, but it felt like, oh, we're doing one again, and we're doing one again, and we're doing one again. Like 1 or 2 musical performances in a 30-minute show would have. I agree with Travis. Would have probably worked
Yeah.
better for me. Doing so many, and I'm like, oh, we're gonna sing. We're gonna do another. Wow, we just got done with one. They're doing another one. That's kind of how it felt.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I think part of that also speaks to the time we're at when we're watching television. Like, when we're watching Viva Variety in the 90s, we just need 30 minutes and that's good. When you're watching Hee Haw in the 70s and 80s, like, this is a show. Instead of going out to see a movie or something, we're sitting here, we're watching this show. And so I think that's somewhat of the reason why it was such a long format.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
And it
where
did feel
people
like a
would just
party.
sit down.
It
Yeah.
felt
Yeah.
it felt like a party you would go to at your country friend's house on the back porch there were 300 people in this cast. Like, you look at
Mhm.
like, how are they paying all these people? But there are 300 of them, and it's honest to goodness, I felt involved, and I don't know if it's a laugh track or if it was just the amount of people and the speed and the like. It
Mhm.
really, I can understand why they felt the need for it to be an hour, because you're in, and once you're in, you want to stay in that feeling of
Mhm.
I'm with a
Sure.
community and laughing and cutting up and listening to music. And it's what people used to do before we had TV. It was a recreation of a Saturday night hoedown, at
Yep.
Uncle Jed's bar. That's really what we were doing. And they did a great job bringing
Mhm.
that feeling to TV.
Mhm.
Well, I think it goes back to this show. A season was made in just a couple weeks. They
Yeah.
only had to pay people for
Yeah.
a couple weeks to perform. A lot of these people are performers in other, acts and places around the country, or more, just kind of Tennessee, Memphis, Branson, Missouri, which was a big, kind of country music thing too. Um, like all you'd have to do is get everybody down, record their, pieces. You got, the twin guys who are just there for one joke and
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah.
You've got a bunch of
Yep.
performers like that who show up, do a thing, and that's it. Um, and then you just
And
pay
like,
the editor to put them together.
yeah, and knowing that now, it makes a lot more sense why everyone was reading every joke off of a cue card, and you could clearly see that
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
because they just don't have time to work on and rehearse those.
No.
It's just you got to pop up, read the cue card, and move on.
But I mean, Saturday Night Live does that all the time now. You
Sure.
barely ever see any cast member of that show not staring off camera in a completely different direction. Like, it's gotten to where they don't even try to
And if you
memorize
saw
the
this
lines.
past week's Saturday Night Live and just everybody lose it on every sketch because they
I
were just having too much fun, I guess, because
didn't work out.
it was funny.
Oh, it's
No, it
good.
was
Yeah,
great.
it was fun.
It was one
Okay.
of those like, we can't keep it together because this is just funny enough that it's making us laugh.
Yeah.
Pedro Pascal knocked it out of the park. He was
That guy is
hilarious.
a
That's amazing.
There were
treasure.
several other sketches that he was in that like he wasn't even the funniest thing. Um, but something about
Can,
this, a lot of those sketches this week just really hit the nail on the head and especially for being the ones where they just can't keep it together at all.
Yeah. That works a lot of the time. If your material doesn't work, just fall over with it. It's great.
Hmm.
It's the Three Stooges.
yeah.
Everyone likes to watch somebody hit themselves with a hammer. Like, there's just something
Well,
great.
and comedians like to make other comedians' corpse on camera, so
Oh yeah.
it makes
Yeah.
sense.
But yeah, it's hard to say much more about Hee Haw because it's just this. Like
Yeah.
this was the show. And like I said, the Wikipedia page will tell you 50 other different sketches that they did regularly that were not
Mhm.
in this episode, on top of little bitty sketches here and there that were original, depending on who the guest was.
Would you guys, if they were to say, "Hee Haw Live coming to town," would you be down for going to see that? Because I'm asking because I feel like I would. I feel like I don't know why this format died. I feel like if they took a road show of Hee Haw around, I'd be there. That sounds like a great time, especially if it was live and it was just skits and chaos and fun stuff with
I mean,
30 rednecks. I'd be okay with it.
It was supposed to be March of 2020, so we all know how that went. But I had tickets to Letterkenny Live, which I mean, other than the musical
Ooh.
numbers, I feel like it's going to be pretty similar.
Pretty much the
Yeah.
same, yeah.
Yeah,
know,
I saw Elton Brown, his show, and it felt kind of like this, like very sketch comedy with different things he was doing on stage. And like his, of course, was focused on food, but man, he put on a show with all kinds of different things happening.
I mean, he's a Georgia boy, so he grew up probably
Yeah.
watching Hee Haw,
Yeehaw.
I'm
Probably.
sure, and incorporated that because he knows when there's, he knows how to use a good thing. I do think a live performance format, like this format fits that perfectly.
Mhm.
Traveling road show like that, whether it's Hee Haw, Letterkenny's perfect because
Yeah.
Letterkenny is so many just small sketches
Yeah.
thrown together.
Mhm.
Kids in the Hall would be another one, like that kind of thing. But
Yeah.
Hee Haw as a variety show, I think would be really interesting because you don't have to have necessarily special guest stars, just your traveling musicians, and maybe you get somebody, you can do some kind of a thing with whoever else is out on tour, and you happen to cross paths, and maybe have them show up or something. But yeah, I could see going to something like this in a live format for sure.
Phil Rude brought up something that I did think of when I was watching and I did forget about. And he says that the live and better version of Hee Haw would have been a Prairie Home Companion, which
Yep.
I wish
Yeah.
Garrison Keeler hadn't turned out to be a sex pest. But
Yeah.
I grew up with a Prairie Home Companion, and that was what I
Yeah.
thought of. Was like, that's the audio version.
Mm-hmm. And I think because a lot of the players in this show did do a lot in Nashville and stuff, I think the Grand Ole Opry had a lot of shows that was basically live hee haw with some of these people. You know, they do music, they come in, somebody would tell a joke, stuff like that. Like I know Minnie Pearl was a mainstay at the Grand Ole Opry for that kind of thing, and others that were on the cast. So, but yeah, if there was a show like this, heck yeah, I'd go see it. I think it'd be fun.
Yeah, well,
You
there
know,
you
I think
go, Hee Haw. You heard it here first. Time to get back on it.
I mean, there's a reason that the blue collar comedy tour
Yeah.
blew up.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Mhm.
you had 4 different voices of jokes go around,
Yeah, and
and those guys are
relatively
still hilarious.
clean. You know,
Yeah.
it wasn't perfect, but it was relatively clean. Like you could
Yeah.
watch that with your
Mhm.
younger teenagers, and you'd have a conversation or two because Larry the Cable Guy. But other than that, you're
Yep.
pretty
Yeah.
much good to go, and that opens up the door for ticket sales.
And I'm just gonna throw this one out right now. If you have not heard Bill Engvall's most recent comedy thing where he talks about his time on Dancing with the Stars and then getting his knee replaced afterward, oh my gosh,
He's good.
that's some of the funniest stuff. Like Dancing with the Stars, his knee goes out, he has to get it replaced, and his doctor prescribes medical marijuana.
Yeah,
That's
good
funny
time.
stuff right there. Oh
I
yeah,
saw him live. Me and Tater went to see him downtown. It was pretty awesome. Great
nice.
night. Barbecue and then Bill Engvall. I was like, this is the
As
best.
God intended.
Yeah, it was a
No
great
Mhm.
doubt.
Tater
Heck
and
yeah.
D-Wayne outing. It was pretty awesome.
Like if you told me that Tater and D-Wayne went out for a night, that is exactly
Yeah,
what I
it is.
would picture.
Yeah.
Barbecue and Bill Engvall. That's
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
what we did.
Okay, so you threw it out there, Steven.
Yeah.
Who would we cast in modern hee haw?
Oh, jeez. I mean, you nailed it with the blue collar comedy guys. You'd have to at least get Jeff Foxworthy on there as a guest at some point. But if this is a
Mhm.
traveling crew, it's got to be people like who are willing to be part of this variety thing. I don't know. Country stuff's hard to find these days.
I would put right now in her prime Dolly Parton on that show.
Oh yeah, she
Oh,
could
Lord,
lead that
Dolly.
junk. You'd show up in a
Mhm.
minute, and she'd bring all her friends that you don't even know, but that are amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We
Yeah.
don't deserve her.
No, we don't.
She's a delight.
She's far too good.
That's I
Mhm.
mean, it's over. You've already peaked.
Yeah.
There's nothing else to add. Just there we go. Dolly Parton, roving hee haw. Here
Yeah.
we are.
We'll get Willie
can
back
still
on
go.
there.
Yes.
Yeah,
Willie
Bring
can
Willie.
still go.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That's a tough pick. But those, if we could get those two, they would bring plenty of funny folks along with
Mhm.
them. That'd work.
I mean, I definitely would get at least a little. They'd have to go a little cleaner, but I'd get some of the Letterkenny crew to show up
Yeah.
at least occasionally.
Mhm.
They're in that vein. They're Canadian rednecks. It
They
works.
Yeah,
are.
yeah.
Yep.
People forget Canada's got an entire cowboy culture over in the Alberta area.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that's
Yeah.
like
Well,
I
I
went to
mean-
a rodeo and there was like 3 cowboys. They're like Canadian cowboys riding Big Tex the Bull or whatever. It was great. They were all
Some
over.
of the acts on hee haw were Canadian. The corn radio thing came from that guy was a Canadian dude and had that bit in Canada first, and then they brought it over to hee haw. So we got our country brothers up there.
Oh yeah,
Uh-huh.
for sure.
Mhm.
But there's probably several Southern type comedians I'm thinking of that I don't remember their names at all right now that I would suggest.
You could
Or
get
no,
Nate. Wait, who'd you see? Nate Bargatze.
Bergazzi.
He's a
He'd
Southern
be
guy.
okay.
Yeah.
No, the two I'm thinking of is Trey Crowder and Corey Forrester.
Oh yeah.
are two guys that
Those
I
are
follow
the
on Twitter.
those are the countryest names I've ever heard in my
They
life.
are
Oh
real
my
good.
gosh. And Corey Forrester is a Georgia boy, and good Lord, the way he goes off on social media, like against some of the right wingers, it's hilarious. And he's actually getting a special on Amazon. He just posted today. So,
All right.
you know, guys like that. But yeah,
Dwight
it would be
Yoakam,
fun.
that would be great. Flipping
Oh
love Dwight
gosh.
Yoakam.
He is underrated in his acting ability. Like,
Agreed. Doyle and
Mhm.
Sling Blade, like I hate him. Perfect.
what was it? He was on that Amazon series Goliath, I think, the first season or
yeah.
two, as like I forget what kind of character, but I think it was like just one you don't mess with. And
Yeah,
it's just like,
usually he's a
soft
butthole.
spoken. Um,
Yoakum? Oh yeah, he's
Yeah.
great at playing those.
mhm. So
Some people can just do that. He's good
Yeah.
at it.
Yeah. They can pull it off.
well,
Bert
Bert
Kreischer.
Kreischer.
On Heat Hob? Okay, I'll take it.
he'd be a fun fish out of water
Put him in
dude.
overalls with no shirt. Then you got
This
yourself.
is what I'm saying.
Yeah, we
Well,
got
he
it.
usually does the no shirt thing anyway.
I
So that
know.
wouldn't be a stretch.
Right at home. We just be like, just overalls. It'd be
You
perfect.
can wear them backwards. It's
Yep.
fine. Don't even worry about it.
Mhm.
He's
Love
your current era Gaylord Sartain.
There
He's
you
he's
go.
those characters.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So that's about all I've got. Anybody got any other thoughts about Hee Haw?
Thank you for bringing
we-
this to us, Adi. That's
Did we get any other social media or email responses?
I asked my mom and dad what they thought of Hee Haw because I was like, y'all had to have watched it. And my mom just said, I can't think of any one thing. I just remember it was funny, which is the most my mom answer I could probably get. Oh, I
There
don't
you
know.
go.
It was good.
Let me bring it up.
Yeah.
I had a buddy on Twitter say he worked on a Hee Haw video within the past year. I guess editing something together, and he
Yeah.
was shocked. What he was shocked at was the pacing.
Yeah.
My buddy
Uh-huh.
Kenny Madison, he was like, I couldn't believe how fast it went.
Mhm.
And after watching it, I'm like, yeah, dude. Again, 14 different comedy sketches.
Wait till we get to laughing. I'm just saying. I just.
You got me looking forward to that one so much more now.
Ah.
But if feel free to let us know what you thought of Hee Haw. Hit us up
Mhm.
at thosewerethedayshow@gmail.com. Those Days Show on Twitter. For those of you who are watching live, you can hit us up at twitch.tv/2dorkstv every Monday at 9 p.m. when we record the show live. But yeah, family and friends, that has been Hee Haw. Now, next week, Steven brings some variety to us. So what have you got for us?
I have been excited about this since we said, hey, do you want to do a classic TV show? I am so happy to bring you guys the Flip Wilson Show, which was a variety show in the 70s. So it's just magic. And I struggled. I struggled to pick an episode. The only reason I had to pick one, or I could pick one easily, was because Daily Motion only has so many, which made it a little bit easier for me. However, between those episodes, I had to pick one that featured Richard Pryor and Tim Conway, or one that featured Red Fox and Joan Rivers, one that featured Ray Charles. I was shocked at the guest list of the Flip Wilson Show, considering that among many of these comedians, you don't hear Flip Wilson's name fall out. Why not? Well, you're going to find out how good he is and how much he deserves to be seen by watching the episode of the Flip Wilson Show with Red Fox, Joan Rivers, and Helen Reddy. I really wanted to get one with a musical guest because they don't all have them. So to fit the variety bill, musical guest felt important. I'm unfamiliar with Helen Reddy, but sure, 70s, whatever. I'm expecting great things. The pacing, we're going to put on the brakes a little bit. We're going to sit in our comedy sketches. We're going to sit in them, and we're going to enjoy them. It's going to be great. I'm really looking forward to it. So yeah, Flip Wilson and Red Fox. That's where we're going.
And that's a
Oh,
Daily
s-
Motion.
That's a Daily Motion. Yeah, the link will be in the show notes. So if you're subscribed
Okay.
to the show, you'll find it there, and it's on. But if you go to Daily Motion, you search Flip Wilson, you'll see the Red Fox and Joan Rivers. I had to pick Joan Rivers. She's just the greatest. That woman is bold as it could be, and at the time for sure. So yeah, let's enjoy this one.
Oh, looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have I mean, you had me at Red Fox, and then you
Right?
said Joan Rivers.
Yep. All right. Well, that's it. For those in the chat, thanks for joining us tonight, everybody. For those listening on the podcast or watching on YouTube, thanks for you listening and watching as well. This has been Those Were the Days. For Amy, Steven, Travis, this is Audie saying, y'all come back now. You hear?
Bye.
Bye.
Hee haw!